Started then here. It's 6 o'clock here, and we are very happy to have Jordan Sanchez, who's a IEP alum. Remind me, Jordan, what was the year you graduated? Was it 3-4 years ago, or am I losing track of time?
No, it was 5 years ago. August of 2015 is when I finished my PSS.
5 years. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, seems like yesterday.
It really does. It really does. So anyway, well, Jordan got a great job working with the Coastal Commission on enforcement, and he's based down in Southern California. I think he kind of got a job that he was perfectly suited for, and I think after you hear him talk, you'll know why. We're really excited to have him kind of share the experiences of what, enforcing the law in the field, enforcing environmental policy, looks like, and some really interesting case studies, because California, there's a lot of fighting over coastal property and coastal access. So I'm sure this will make for a great talk. So Jordan, welcome back, and look forward to meeting you in person sometime, and look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Rachel, for setting this up and inviting me back. One of my favorite things as a student was the Marine Speaker Series in the fall. So it's great to have the opportunity to speak to everybody today. And I'm going to try to keep it relatively short with the presentation, and leave a little bit more time for Q&A. But I thought it was kind of important to give you guys an overview of the Coastal Commission and an overview of the Coastal Act. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to get into a little bit of a summary of the enforcement program. What are the tools and mechanisms under the Coastal Act to enforce our coastal development permits, and how we address unpermitted development. And then I'm going to get into a couple case studies of violations that have already been resolved. We'll take it from there with the Q&A. But just so I know, can you guys see the PowerPoint? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. All right. Well, as Jason said, my name is Jordan, and I graduated a few years ago, and right after graduation, a couple weeks later, got hired by the California Coastal Commission, and I have been there, since 2015. And so, what is the commission? The commission is a independent quasi-judicial state agency, and our mission is the commission's mission is to protect and enhance California's coast and ocean for present and future generations, and we do so through careful planning and regulation of environmentally sustainable development, rigorous use of science, strong public participation, education, and effective intergovernmental coordination. I definitely want to get into a little bit of the background and the lead up of the events that sort of led to the voter initiative, Prop 20, which was the precursor to the Coastal Act. So I'm going to cover that now. The Coastal Act can trace its origins back to the 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill. It remains the largest oil spill to have occurred off the waters of California. And the source of the spill was a blowout from an oil platform on January 28, 1969, from Union Oil's platform in the Santa Barbara Channel. And within a 10-day period, an estimated 80 to 100,000 barrels of crude oil spilled into the Santa Barbara Channel and onto the beaches of Santa Barbara County, and along the coastline all the way between Goleta and Ventura, also on the Channel Islands, right off the coast there. And the spill had a significant impact on marine life in the channel. The Santa Barbara Channel is teeming with marine life. It's a really important migratory corridor for blue whales and gray whales. And yeah, it was really devastating. It killed an estimated 3,500 seabirds, as well as marine animals, including dolphins, elephant seals, and sea lions. And the public was really outraged, after this oil spill. And that outrage and the prominent media coverage throughout the United States and around the world really galvanized the environmental movement in the late 60s, early 70s. And, a lot of different environmental legislation was passed in the early 70s. And the Federal Coastal Zone Management Act was one of them. And around the same time, Prop 20 was passed. And this is basically what the cleanup was looking like at the end of that oil spill. There is pretty, pretty devastating. So Prop 20 really was a grassroots movement, and this was during the 60s and 70s when builders, corporations, oil companies, energy companies, and developers saw massive opportunities for development on the California coast. And if you've ever been down to Southern California, you will see that a lot of the development was actually built before the Coastal Act. So you can just see what that urban sprawl would look like. Imagine that on the entirety of the California coast. Developers had planned to expand Highway 1 through Big Sur and other areas along the whole state to 4 lanes with major links to the 101. And they envisioned a string of nuclear power plants from Malibu to another one in Moss Landing, Bodega Bay, and Point Arena. They also envisioned huge water projects, including damming of all coastal rivers. If you've been, I keep saying if you've been down to Southern California, but I mean, it's completely different from the way the rest of the coast looks. And imagine the damming of those beautiful rivers that we have up in Humboldt County, Northern California. So some of the groups that were involved in the California Coastal Alliance, which was the kind of the consortium of groups, included not just environmental groups, but the League of Women Voters and the Longshoremen's Union. So it really was a broad coalition that backed Prop 20. And in this slide, you can see a picture. This is a really famous picture of the activists. They literally biked up and down the coast with the Senate president at the time to really drive the message home that the coast was worth protecting. Even though developers and the construction industry, oil companies, and the other folks that I mentioned, outspent the environmental movement 100 to 1, they were able to, the environmental movement was able to overcome that just from that grassroots organizing.
Real quick, Jordan, when just so you're aware, when you turn your papers, we're hearing that as a loud background noise.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, just to make you aware.
Yeah, I have a couple notes here. Okay. So the initiative won 54% of the vote, and the Coastal Act was passed on a bipartisan basis, and it gave permanent status to the California Coastal Commission to administer the Coastal Act. And in passing the Coastal Act, voters declared that it's the policy of the state to preserve, protect, and where possible, restore the resources of the coastal zone for the enjoyment of current and succeeding generations. So we definitely took that, what the legislature wrote to heart when we were, coming up with our mission for the agency. So what is the commission? You can see in this grainy photo, I pulled it off of CalSpan, which is our, the broadcasting service for California state government. And on the left, this is actually at the Newport Beach City Council chambers. On the left is are the 12 commissioners, and on the right, you can kind of see in the corner is me and the Chief of Enforcement, Lisa Hagee, giving the enforcement report for the month. So the commission is comprised of 12 voting members. 4 of them are appointed by the governor, 4 of them are appointed by the assembly speaker, and 4 are appointed by the Senate president. And there's 4 non-voting members that are also appointed by those entities. And half of the commission are locally elected officials, so city council members, county supervisors. And just recently, the Coastal Act was amended to allow local mayors to also be appointed to the commission. And then the other half, the other 6, are just at-large members of the public. So anybody can apply to get on the commission. So let's see. So our staff, let me go back really quick. Our staff are comprised of anywhere between 160 to 165 different members, and we have on staff geologists, coastal engineers, planners, lawyers, ecologists, and we, our main objective is to analyze coastal development permit applications, and local coastal program amendments for consistency with the Coastal Act. And we provide recommendations to the commission, and the commission actually votes on whether or not to approve the permit application or local coastal program amendment. And those are done at public hearings, which is what you can see here in this grainy picture. We also have offices up and down the coast, all the way from down in San Diego, all the way up to Arcata. Here's a map of our different district offices. So what we've done in the past is, well, we had a Miss student as a intern last summer in the Long Beach office, but there have been other instances where, say, if you're from Ventura or you're from the Santa Cruz area, you could potentially find, and we can talk about this more in the Q&A, but you could potentially find an internship with one of the district offices. And it's kind of cool that we're all spread out through the state. So the commission regulates development, and the definition of development is broadly defined in the Coastal Act. I just put some of the main, main points of it in here. Some of the main things that we protect are, coastal access and environmentally sensitive habitats. But the way that we, oversee and regulate development is when someone wants to engage in one of these activities listed in this definition, they need to apply for a coastal development permit to legalize that development. And the coastal zone, so the coastal zone is broadly, a really broad area. And this is a picture of the coastal zone in Long Beach, a heavily urbanized area where I'm based out of. And the coastal zone was actually mapped by the legislature, and it can span up to 5 miles inland in rural areas. So if you know the Santa Monica Mountains, which are just behind Malibu, the coastal zone goes almost to the 101 freeway, which is a really large extent of that rural part of northern LA County and southern Ventura County. But in urban areas, it just goes it varies, but up to a few blocks inland. And it also includes the 3-mile wide band of state waters off the coast. And we have a specific unit that deals with development in the ocean. It's our Energy, Federal Consistency, and Ocean Resources Division. But getting back to the permit process, which is kind of our bread and butter, each application for development is reviewed by staff, as I mentioned, and then staff makes a recommendation, and we publish a staff report laying out whether or not this development is consistent with the law or not. But we do have other divisions. We have the Enforcement Division, which is where I work. We have the Federal Consistency and Ocean Resources Division that I just mentioned. We also have a really robust public education program, which is sort of separate from the regulatory side of things, but they administer the grants from the sale of the whale tail license plates. So if you guys have ever seen those license plates, actually proceeds of those funds go to enhancing public access and restoring the coast, and those grants are dispersed to local nonprofits and other land trusts, other groups that are that have a shared mission with the commission. Let's see. So yeah, the Chapter 3 policies of the Coastal Act, and the Chapter 3 policies are the standard of review. So when we're reviewing development applications, those are what we're looking at, whether or not staff is going to recommend approval. So one of the main ones is public access, and public access is protected by the commission in a variety of ways. It can be something as straightforward as a new development on a private parcel along the coast not being able to obstruct access and requiring them to record a public access easement through the property so that the public can have continued access to the coast. And it can also include regulating the parking fees at public beaches and public parking lots. So for example, this is a picture of the city of Newport Beach. If the city wanted to raise their rates, say from $5 an hour to $10 an hour, that would trigger the requirement to obtain a coastal development permit for review by the commission. Yeah, it's definitely broadly defined how we protect access. Also, beach curfews is something that we've fought to to minimize. So restrictions on beaches closing at sunset, or not letting people get onto the beach until 6 a.m. We definitely have put up some good fights to really maximize public access, which is part of our mission. Another Chapter 3 policy that I think is really important are the scenic and visual qualities of the coast. Say if a home was going to be designed here, designed to be built here, we would ask the applicant to set the home back from the bluff to protect the scenic quality of the bluff there, and for instance, or if it was above Highway 1 there, make the house recessed or set back. So that it wasn't so prominent on the ridgeline there. Also, wetlands are a really important coastal resource that we protect. This is one of the last coastal wetlands left in LA County. Southern California has lost 95% of its coastal wetlands, so it's really important for to protect what's left. Environmentally sensitive habitat areas is something that is a really important Chapter 3 policy. It's basically means any area that supports a specific like a rare or endangered plant community, or a specific animal like the California Gnatcatcher or least tern. We would protect that area. And these are this is a coastal aerial shot of the Silomar, one of my favorite beaches, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with living up there. So that entire dune area just inland of the road there is environmentally sensitive habitat. So development would not be allowed there. So some of the species that we protect include the coastal California Gnatcatcher, which is dependent on coastal, is another endangered plant community, but that is why that's why we have the Coastal Act to make sure that areas like this aren't just completely bulldozed. The least tern is another endangered species that we protect through protection of coastal dunes. And we've worked with the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to set aside protected nesting areas. This one is at the mouth of the Santa Ana River in Newport Beach. We protect the Burrowing Owl, one of my favorites. The commission recently denied a huge development down in Newport. It's the last private open space parcel left on the coast called Banning Ranch, and the commission denied that permit partially because it is a burrowing owl habitat. So that just shows you the power that comes along when if species like these are found on the property. So what's a Coastal Act violation? This is kind of my wheelhouse here. Coastal Act violation can come up in two instances. It could be a violation of an existing coastal development permit, or it can be unpermitted development. The role of the public is really important when we are researching violations and receiving reports. Most of how we track down violations come from public reports, whether they leave us a voicemail on our at our district office, or send us an email or with photos of the violation and what's going on. We really rely on the public and those local partnerships with environmental groups and folks at large to really be involved. This is a hearing from before my time. It was for the toll road that was proposed to be built through San Onofre State Beach, which would have disrupted some of the last remaining riparian corridors and coastal sage scrub and chaparral areas left in Southern California. And when the public gets involved, the commission listens. So that's really important. So when you're reporting a violation, I ask folks to provide the location of the violation, description of the activity and the coastal resources that they believe to be impacted. I ask them who's doing the work, if they know who the contractor is, to send me a picture of the truck, send me the address, any information that would narrow it down and let me know exactly where this is occurring. In the face of sea level rise, one of the big enforcement issues we're going to be dealing with is shoreline armoring and unpermitted shoreline armoring like this one. This is a unpermitted revetment that commission enforcement staff worked to restore. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the after picture, but violations can be as small as someone putting up every violation is we want to tackle, but it could be something as minor as one no parking sign, or it could be a large revetment. So there's really a wide variety of issues that we're tackling. And we have a number of tools at our disposal to remedy violations. These are some of the most salient ones. We have the executive director cease and desist order. And the executive director cease and desist order is a staff level order, and it's issued by the executive director if staff determines that someone is undertaking unpermitted development. We first have to issue what's called an NOI, a notice of intent, to allow that person to respond in a satisfactory manner, and then we go ahead and proceed with the order. And executive director cease and desist orders are temporary. Those need to be followed up within 90 days with a commission issued cease and desist order. And commission issued cease and desist orders are issued by the full commission at a public hearing. And the commission also can, and that basically directs the person to stop the unpermitted development. And then usually subsequently at that same hearing, they're issued a restoration order, which requires them to remove the unpermitted development and restore the site, usually with some sort of mitigation and penalties involved with that. In 2014, the commission was given the authority from the legislature to issue administrative penalties for public access violations. That's section 30821 of the Coastal Act, and that's really our big tool right now, because otherwise, if we can't resolve the violation amicably with the alleged violator, we have to basically initiate litigation to recover penalties. But 30821 is important, because when we send the initial notice of violation letter, we let folks know what the penalties are, and paying $11,000 a day fine is for public access violations is people don't usually take that lightly, and we've definitely seen a speed up in the resolution of our cases as a result of that. So these are some of the penalties. Violations can be up to $30,000 for each violation that occurs. So I just wanted to give you a quick example of a cease and desist order and some sample language. So we would ask someone to perform no further unpermitted development, remove all development and unpermitted development, and open up public access, and design and construct the public access way, which is what we had them do here, and maintain that access way in perpetuity. So I know I'm running a little low on time. I want to get through. I kind of was a little slow in the beginning, but I wanted to get through a couple cases, and this is a really big one. Jason knows this one. This is the CEMEX sand mine up in Marina, and CEMEX was basically operating the last remaining coastal sand mine without benefit of a coastal development permit. And commission enforcement staff was able to negotiate a consent, cease and desist, and restoration order for the site. And it basically is going to require CEMEX to turn over that property after 2020, or to sell that property to a nonprofit or public agency for conservation in perpetuity. And the land to the north and to the south are, I think, owned by Big Sur Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy, respectively. So it's really gonna create a large, open space area to protect that dune. But The impacts were particularly acute of the CEMEX sand mine. The rates of erosion in southern Monterey Bay were some of the highest in the state, and thanks to local groups like the local Surfrider Foundation, the Center for the Blue Economy, putting out that public comment letter that you guys did with showing the economic impacts of this of the sand mine to the local local economy there, and local coastal geomorphologists like Gary Griggs and Ed Thornton from Naval Postgraduate School really instrumental in getting the CEMEX sand mine closed. And it's really a historic decision, and it's one of the most significant accomplishments that the commission and the public, all of us together had. So let me talk about one of my cases really quick. This is a case down in Newport Beach that the commission just approved a consensual settlement for. It was for the unpermitted encroachment into dune habitat and impacts to public access on the beach. And we negotiated a $1.7 million settlement with the homeowners. And there were a variety of encroachments, some of them going out 80 feet onto the beach, as you can see here. And they varied from ornamental landscaping and grass all the way to invasive plants like ice plant and other types of invasives that were irrigated by sprinklers. And we negotiated different penalty amounts depending on the length of the violation, how long that property owner owned the property. And we were able to come to a consensual agreement with both the city of Newport Beach, which is the property owner here. This is actually public beach, which should be open to the public, and the property owners to remove all of these encroachments, restore the area to native dune habitat, and payment of a monetary penalty of $1.7 million, which is going to be used at the direction of the commission to implement coastal access programs for underserved youth in Orange County. And we have a lot of different groups that we partner with that will be good candidates for that funding. I know I'm almost a half hour. I have one more case I could briefly talk about, Jason, or should we just?
Please go for it.
Okay. So, oh yeah, this is a photo of what this is from a different case, but this is what a dune restoration site would look like. So this is another public access case that we worked on a few years back, and this is the Dana Point Headlands down at Strands Beach. It's one of the most famous beaches. It's right next to Salt Creek down there in Dana Point. And in this case, the city of Dana Point wanted to install gates and basically cut off access after a certain point of time in the evening, and the commission fought that in court. And the city, that's another thing that happens is local governments, there's different politics in different cities, and the city actually passed an ordinance to formalize the limits on beach access and the hours of operation here. And basically the city was saying that they don't have to follow the Coastal Act, which requires access to be open through this community. And the commission, the Surfrider Foundation together fought the city in court. And we said that this is setting a precedent that would limit beach access throughout not just here, but statewide in California. And the court ruled in the public's favor in 2011. And as part of the settlement, between the city and the commission, the city has provided new signage. So you can see in this sign, the spikes are gone, the gate is gone, and now we have a sign that just says coastal access. It doesn't say, public not welcome or whatever other signs they had up there. And the gates are now open 24/7. And hours down the middle, so there's a few different access ways here, and hours down the middle of the development were extended to 10 p.m. and 24-hour access, as I said, is open on the north, actually on the north and the south end. So this was another big win. We don't always resolve cases amicably. I gave an example of 2 cases that were, but there's other times where cases are ripe to be litigated, and we ended up prevailing in this one, and this was a big win. But with that, I just wanted to leave us with a quote from our most famous and longest serving executive director, Peter Douglas, that the coast is never saved, it's always being saved. And I will share my contact info with folks, but if you do want to report a violation, you can find your local Coastal Commission district office information on our website, and we actually have each district officer's name and phone number and email on there. So I wanted to also empower you all that if you see something that looks funny, you see some bulldozers bulldozing some dunes or some security guards that are down on the beach trying to tell people the beach is public when in fact, or I'm sorry, that the beach is private when in fact it's public in certain areas. You know, we need people to be involved, and hope you all will take that home with you. So I think that's it, and happy to answer any questions folks have.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. We already got a bunch of questions in the chat box here. Rachel, real quick, are we going to allow people to? We're just telling people to put in the chat box. Is that how you want to do it right now?
Yeah, I think well, somewhat, moderate it. Elise, why don't you go first, and then Annie, and then Logan. So just go ahead and unmute yourself, ask your question, and then as people after that, you can just put your question in the chat, or let me know with the raise hand function if you want to go.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what was the argument the city gave for why they didn't have to provide, or why they didn't have to follow the Coastal Act? Sure.
They said that the public's access through the community after, I can't remember the hour that they wanted to cut it off at. I think it was 10 p.m. They declared it a public nuisance. So local governments can declare public nuisances, and those nuisances can be are supposed to be abated. And a lot of times, local governments will try to use that public nuisance argument as a workaround. But the court didn't agree with that, because they didn't really show any evidence that crime had increased, or whatever arguments that they were making weren't consistent with the requirements to declare a public nuisance.
Annie, go for it.
Hi, so I was wondering about good old Pebble Beach. I usually go in to try to surf at Spanish Bay, and I just started lying and saying that I make up a random name and say I'm going to their house and let you pass through. But I was talking with a friend, and we're like, why aren't we allowed to just go surf? We're allowed to, all the beaches are public in California. Why can't we go? And so the next time I got to the gate, I was like, I'm going to the beach. And they were like, you can't, you still have to pay, or you have to live here. And I said, no, that I should be allowed to, it's public beach. And they said, no, absolutely not. That's still not allowed. So wondering, what is Pebble Beach's deal?
I'm not familiar with the requirement. I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of, there may have been some sort of coastal development permit that was issued in the past that allowed for public access to happen. I know you can get in. You just have to, I think you have to pay a fee to drive 17-mile drive. But I don't know the facts on that specific case, but I'm happy to find that out for you and put you in touch with our Central Coast district office in Santa Cruz. I actually see Charles, which is awesome. So I will Charles was, oh, here we go.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey, you want to take it? I know you know that one. You want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, I just put in the chat that that goes back to the middle 1980s, and it was a big battle. Pebble Beach always had private beach there, or private access along the roads, and so as part of the LCP certification, there was a bunch of negotiation. I wasn't there, mind you. This is all from my review of historic records. And as part of the LCP, which you may want to explain a little bit. The
Yeah.
commission agreed to access rules that allow them to charge the fee. The fee can be increased by some proportion every year, cost of living increase of sorts. And there's also at least 4 days when they can't get in at all, or they can close it. And those are the big tournaments, golf tournaments. So it was a bit of a negotiation. On the plus side, Stillwater Cove, if you want to go diving down there or enjoy that incredible beach, you can go there. And there's parking right next to the 5th hole there that you can use. Trail access, supposed to be signage. So, you know, it was kind of a mixed bag.
So for folks who don't know, Charles was our executive director a couple years back, and I'm so excited to see you here, and it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a couple of years, so thanks for joining.
I was trying to remember when you came on board.
Yeah, 2015, so it's been a while. Not a while, but not for coastal staff, but it's been a while since I've seen you.
Logan, you want to step up here for the question?
Yeah. So my question's kind of basic, I guess, but I understand sort of at the abstract and like the macro level as to what your office does, but I'm kind of a bit more curious as to like what your role is exactly. Like I guess, you know, a day in the life of an enforcement officer. Or,
yeah. Yeah, sure. I tried to. I know there was a lot to cover, and I definitely didn't touch on everything. And like Charles mentioned, local coastal programs is another issue that I didn't mention. But we, you know, we have a lot of different divisions and a lot of different programs. In the enforcement program, I'm the district enforcement officer. So my job is to take the incoming information that we're getting from either the public or another local government, or sometimes from our own staff who see violations occurring, or if they know that something was permitted in a way, X amount of public parking spaces that were required and there's only Y, they'll report that to me. And my job is to research the permit history, you know, look at the aerial photographs, establish whether or not a violation of a previously issued coastal development permit has occurred, or in the event that the development is entirely unpermitted, to address that through both are addressed initially through a notice of violation letter, which basically puts the property owner on notice that they violated conditions A, B, and C of their permit, or if they don't have a permit for it, we tell them why their development that they're undertaking meets the definition of development under the Coastal Act and why it needs a permit. And we use the notice of violation letters as an educational opportunity to explain why coastal sage scrub is important, why wetlands are important, why dunes are important. And we you know, lay all of that out in a very detailed letter, and also provide them with the enforcement remedies. We tell them what they're looking at if they don't choose to resolve the violation amicably. And then we also provide them with in a resolution section of the letter to with a pathway forward, whether that's something as simple as taking the signs down if it's unpermitted no parking signs, or whether or not you know, the impacts to coastal resources were so significant that it requires you know, either a cease and desist and restoration order, or sometimes we can resolve permits through violations, violations through permits, by either approving like a portion of the permit, or a portion of the violation that is permissible, or you know, having them remove the unpermitted development. You know, especially when we have a permit that's about to go to hearing, and say we find out about a violation like 2 weeks before the hearing, we try to, you know, have applicants fold in the resolution of the violation into that permit. But if we can't resolve, if I can't resolve the violation administratively at the district level, or through the permit process, or through some sort of informal process, like for instance having them just take the sign down, we refer the case to our statewide enforcement unit, which is up in San Francisco, and they prepare the formal enforcement action, which is the cease and desist and restoration order. Or if it's a public access violation, they negotiate they can negotiate penalties if they want to resolve it amicably, but they work through all that formal enforcement action for presentation to the commission at a public meeting, and at that public meeting, the public actually has input on the resolution. Like if we got it wrong, or if there's something we missed, it's really important that we have groups come forward and point it out to us. Or if we did get it right, we want people's support, or if they're opposed to it, we want to hear them too. And that's really the beauty of the Coastal Commission's process. Is it's all about public participation. And so, yeah, those larger cases will be resolved at a public hearing.
Great. I think we have another question, Megan, if you wanted to speak.
Oh, it's Stokes, and
sorry.
then
Oh,
Katrina and Megan.
hey, yeah. Well, mine is kind of going back to Annie's question, so we don't have to go into it too much. But I was wondering, because I just went to 17 Mile Stretch a couple of days ago, and I was kind of blown that I had to pay like $10.50 to go see a public beach. So I was just wondering if you or Charles knew like where that money was going. If it was going to like environmental causes, like maybe I'd feel better about it. But
Charles, long-term Central Coast District Manager and Deputy Director before he was Executive Director.
Where is it going? It's going to the Pebble Beach Corporation. And so probably the residents of Pebble Beach, they might, I don't know if they market for maintenance of the roads and things like that, but I'm sure they would tell you, and you've probably seen on television, that they do a lot for the environment as well. They're good stewards, et cetera. As I said before, it was a negotiation, and really reflects the fact that commissions change and it's a political process, as Jordan was saying. So it matters who's sitting up there and what their inclinations are. That was a big fight. The county was supporting the Pebble Beach Company's efforts to keep Pebble Beach closed completely. And so that was the negotiated outcome. You can go in for free if you walk or you're on a bike. So a lot of people park outside the gate and walk in, or take your bike in. It's one way around it. There's also extensive trails through Del Monte Forest that have been approved over the years. So there's a lot of opportunities to hike through there.
Right.
Thanks, Charles.
And then I think it's Katrina, but she doesn't have her mic set up. So her question is, what is the importance of public beaches to local and state economies? How does restricted beach access affect communities in states that allow private beach ownership? And who benefits from restricted access and who loses?
Well, I will try to take a stab at that. I mean, my opinion is, I think it's clear when if you have a private beach with a private entity owning and operating, say, a restaurant or a club, or with an exclusive use of the sandy beach and of the view of the ocean and use of it. I mean, I think it's pretty clear who benefits from that. When we have public trust resources like the coast here in California, we're fortunate that we do have a lot of public beaches and public access. So I know there's other states like on the East Coast, like in Maine. I think Maine has the majority of the coast is under private ownership, and that I guess that's up to them to decide. But yeah, we're lucky here. We're able to enjoy it and enjoy the coast for the benefit of all. Yeah, it's unfortunate that that groups would try to exclude people. In terms of the economics, maybe maybe Jason
Sure, I can
wants to talk about that.
Yeah, I can step in a little. I mean, there's two kind of ways to think about this, right? There's an exclusive. If you can make a private beach, that's worth a lot more money to them as a private owner or private developer, right? If you get a private slice of beach in Central California, that land is going to be worth a lot more. If it's public, though, those benefits are then diffused over a lot more people. You got people going to restaurants, kayaks, surf, hotels. So it's a private versus public benefits issue. And, again, California has really come down on the public diffuse benefits rather than the concentrated private benefits.
I think it's, let's see, is it Megan's up?
Hi, I was just wondering, how do you ensure that the public knows their rights, and how do you engage the community in, interacting with you and reporting infractions, and I guess just making sure that the larger people of the community, or the people of the community, know to reach out to you if they see something that's going on that's not right?
Yeah, that's a great question. We could always do better. We're definitely trying to, a lot of folks don't know about the commission, but we do also at the same time have a robust network of environmental groups like Surfrider and Sierra Club and groups that have been involved in the coastal policy realm for a while. But I can tell you what I've tried to do since I've started at the commission, and I can kind of talk about some of our outreach initiatives that we've been doing through our racial equity plan and environmental justice policy. We are, I was asked by my high school here in Long Beach. I'm actually from Long Beach, to come and give a talk to kids that weren't, may not have been so exposed to why the beach is public and in Long Beach, and give them sort of an idea that if you're passionate about the environment and recreating on the coast and ocean, that there's a career path for you. So I've given some talks back at my old high school. I know our public education program does a great job of doing outreach, and they set up huge booths and do tons of outreach, especially for Coastal Cleanup Day, and have a lot of local partner organizations that they work with. But yeah, it's definitely, we could always do more. I think the press does a good job of getting our, if there's a big, a big case that's coming up, or a big permit that's coming before the commission, there's definitely a good amount of press coverage that goes on. But there are groups, especially from inland communities, from communities that have historically been excluded from the public process and from government, from the benefits of government. We've been working to do more outreach, and we have an environmental justice team that has done a grassroots outreach. That we did a grassroots outreach campaign to environmental justice groups up and down the coast, from all the way up in the Smith River and up in Northern California, all the way down to the border here down in San Diego. And so we're trying little by little. We're chipping away at that, and it's gonna take a while, but it's interesting because we do have a big constituency, a really passionate groups of people that you see a lot of the same names at the hearings, and folks giving public comment almost at every hearing sometimes. But we really do need to grow the coastal constituency, and so folks know that we're fighting for them, for everybody.
And I have a question from Laura Sanchez, who also doesn't have a mic tonight. She said, I wanted to jump in on the beach access discussion. If the city could build a strong argument on public nuisance as to why they should restore the gate, do you think that they could overturn the current status of their case? Or what would it take for them to go against the commission and win? Oh shoot, now I just lost the rest of it. She is, there it is. I'm from South Florida, and a lot of the beaches around me have gates and time restrictions that begin at sundown. So I'm a little curious on your perspective on this subject.
Well, I am not intimately familiar with the court's decision in that case. Actually, Charles, you were our executive director when that case was being litigated. But I do know that we did get some good case law out of that, and for the city to implement, say they want to come back and put gates up, they had to get the commission isn't the only entity that can issue coastal development permits. Local cities and counties are given that authority through their local coastal programs, and the commission works with local governments to develop those local coastal programs. They're basically mini coastal acts for that city or county. And in this case, the city of Dana Point had or has a local coastal program. Charles, were they applying for an LCP amendment to put the gates in, or was that were they just squarely doing it through the public nuisance declaration? I can't remember.
Boy, most of what I remember is telling them no, and that we were going to sue or respond. They were involved in an LCP and a permit. I think we had a couple big meetings in San Francisco about it. So they basically wanted to try to get away with whatever they could, and the Coastal Commission upheld the staff position, which was no. It then requires the Attorney General to defend the Coastal Commission when you go to court. So it can be complicated, as you know. You can explain that.
Yeah, I mean, I would foresee us, if we got another LCP amendment from the city, or some sort of amendment to that Strands permit, we would recommend denial of it and potentially start the whole process over again.
Right.
Just to add on just a little bit, let's say that there is a case where it's just mayhem at the beach. This is people launching grenades, I don't know, and needles, something horrible. That would there ever be a case where the Coastal Commission would say that that's a public nuisance and deny access to the beach? Is there ever a case for a city to deny access to the beach on public nuisance?
I mean, I would find it very unlikely that we would be supportive of a public nuisance declaration to limit coastal access. I would have a very hard time envisioning that.
I love the commission.
I guess never say never, but I can tell you, obviously for everything that's going on right now, the pandemic, local health agencies have issued public health orders. As you all know, at the beginning of the pandemic, that only allowed for active recreation on public beaches, and required, people in LA County required people to wear masks at all times unless you were in the water, and to keep it moving and socially distance and all that. And we have been keeping track of all those local public health orders, but we've also been issuing what's called a waiver, which basically means that, yeah, this is development, it's limiting access, but it's not, but it's, in the public interest, we've been allowing those that restriction on access to happen, especially, I mean, in a pandemic, I guess that would be one situation where we would agree. but that's through a public health order, not a public nuisance declaration.
I think B. Warren, you're up, and
Yeah, sorry, that's me. It's Bailey. My email just came up.
Yeah.
I had hi. I had a quick question. So I actually worked with Surfrider this summer, and we were looking at the state's coastal policies. And one of California's weak points I found was, or we talked about, was emergency permitting.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you could briefly explain like what California's policies are on emergency permitting, if you can. And then if you had, I was wondering if you personally seen like times where this has caused a lot of problems with erosion control structures like seawalls and bulkheads and stuff, where you couldn't limit the amount at all.
Sure. So we, the commission allows for the issuance of emergency permits when there's an immediate threat to coastal development. And we have, but sometimes what happens is in the past at least, emergency permits were issued for pre-coastal structures, so structures that were built prior to the Coastal Act, which are entitled to shoreline protection in certain circumstances. We've approved emergency permits to install. So in the past, we've approved them to install revetments, which is like rock boulders in front of the structure to protect it from wave activities and high tides. But a lot of times those emergency permits have a requirement to obtain. They expire, and once they expire, it requires either authorization of the emergency work through a full coastal development permit, which will go through the whole process, or it requires removal. We've worked to make our emergency permit conditions more robust and more enforceable. We've added the 30821 language to our emergency permits, which is, as I mentioned in the presentation, 30821 is our penalty authority for public access violations. But we've had these are ongoing cases, so I don't want to say specific names of places or developments, but we had a case where an emergency permit was approved for the temporary placement of sandbags and water-filled K-rails, which are like if you ever seen like construction, like kind of white cement K-rails for construction, these are just plastic ones that you can fill with water. We approved that emergency permit a few years back for a number of pre-coastal homes, and it required each homeowner to submit a detailed plan of where they were going to put the sandbags, where they were going to put the K-rails. It required the sand to be used to be from outside of the area, not from that beach, and it had a lot of other conditions that no one followed. And instead, what we ended up with was a hodgepodge of some sandbags, some water-filled K-rails. The sandbags were made of plastic, so those were littering the beach. I went on a site visit, and there were sandbags buried. Like I was like kicking them as I was walking in ankle-deep water, and that's a problem because for different reasons, but for us. When we issue emergency permits and we approve, I mean, at least in this case it wasn't a revetment, but it was sandbags and K-rails. But it is challenging. I mean, I'm not gonna, it's not all roses. We have a lot of challenges on staying on top of these emergency permits and whether or not they're following the conditions of the permit. We have one enforcement officer per district. I cover all of LA and Orange County, including, except for Malibu, but including Catalina Island. We have our officer in the Santa Cruz office covers San Luis Obispo County, SLO County, and San Luis Obispo County, Santa Cruz County, and I think San Mateo. So it's like, that's a third of the coast that one person is covering. So we're trying to make emergency permits more enforceable and stay on top of them. But there's been unfortunate events where either they weren't followed or they went beyond the scope of what was approved, and then we now have to address those through a formal enforcement action, which is what we're doing in that sandbag and K-rail case I was talking about, because now they're not just putting sandbags and K-rails, they're trenching in front of the houses, they're putting in these cobblestone filled kind of metal baskets, they're building unpermitted sand berms. It's definitely challenging, and it's getting worse with sea level rise, because these communities have seen unprecedented amounts of coastal erosion, and it was a narrow stretch of beach to begin with, and it's going to be a test case for how, I don't know, there's a lot of challenging questions that are going to need to be answered through this eventual enforcement order and permit that we're going to need from this from HOA.
Great, thanks. Sounds really extensive. Thanks.
Do we have time for one more question?
Let's just make it brief. Yeah, I think it's Natasha, if you want to ask your question, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I was just wondering if, and if so, how the current administration and their kind of rollbacks on environmental regulation, how that's affected the work of the California Coastal Commission.
Not the Newsom administration, but the Trump administration. You're talking about the federal, I'm assuming. Yeah. We, I don't know that it's, well, we've seen not a huge, I mean, one of the great things is the Coastal Zone Management Act, when it comes up for reauthorization, which is the federal legislation that it requires states to develop coastal programs. We get a certain amount of our budget funding from NOAA, from those federal dollars, and we haven't seen a decrease, as far as I know. I'm also reminding everybody I'm a little bit lower on the totem pole, but from what I understand, our budget hasn't gone down significantly from that funding. I mean, in theory it could, but I think the Coastal Zone Management Act enjoys bipartisan support, both sides of the aisle. So I think that's really important. I mean, there's a large constituency, I think, when it comes down to it, on both sides to protect the coast. And I know that there's been talks of opening up the OCS, the Outer Continental Shelf, and federal waters for drilling off of California. But I mean, that would be years away, and there's multiple layers of state laws in between any sort of new federal offshore oil expansion and production. So there's definitely, like, the Coastal Act and other state laws would kind of be in the middle of that. So it hasn't directly affected us.
I'll just add to that, Jordan's point, that the nice thing about ocean coastal in the US is a lot of it is pretty bipartisan, because you have Republican governors and senators and congressmen and women. And so they oppose offshore oil drilling. If you might remember that when Trump said he was going to do offshore oil drilling, Florida asked for an exemption right away, which is a big Republican state. And people were like, how is a Republican state going to ask for an exemption from a Republican administration? And then what, are you going to only drill off California, a Democratic state? So it got really weird all quickly. There's definitely some issues, and we'll get into this later. I mean, I think fishing issues, national monuments, sanctuaries, that's where you get some of the Republican pushback. But in these real kind of coastal development, tourism, economic issues, I think Jordan is really right that you have pretty bipartisan consensus, which makes it nice working in this space.
Yeah, thanks, Jason, for coloring that in a little more. We have a federal programs coordinator, Michelle, whose job is to work on those issues and the relationship between us and NOAA. And I know, well, for enforcement, we submit we submit reports to NOAA about how many cases we're working on, how many cases we've resolved. Every 6 months we have to submit a report, and we have a really great working relationship with the staff at NOAA. And Yeah, a lot of things are done at the staff level with the civil service. So that's also a plus.
Great, great. Well, hey, Jordan, it's been great hearing about your last 5 years. It seems like you've got some good victories under your belt, and I'm sure some students will reach out to you for some further career advice and maybe how they can get into the Coastal Commission or other related work. And we look forward to hosting you in person, where we can have a beer and have some dinner when all this pandemic is over. So
Awesome.
you stay safe, and thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I just want to add, if anybody's interested in internships or how to get a job at the commission, I'm more than willing to talk to you about that. It's kind of a little bit of a different process than just applying for a job. So happy to discuss that with you as well. Rachel and Jason have my email. So thank you all too as well. And thanks for your questions.
Awesome. All right, everybody, be well. Have a great rest of the night.